The heavy weight of his hand slammed her against the cold marble wall of the courthouse hallway. The impact shot a jolt of pain through her shoulder, but it was nothing compared to the searing humiliation boiling inside her chest. Conversations around them died down. People who had been walking past just moments before froze in their tracks, eyes darting toward the commotion. But no one moved. No one interfered. The authority of his uniform paralyzed the small crowd that had gathered. His face twisted into a smug grin, his voice dripping with condescension as he leaned in close, his breath hot against her skin. "You people," he sneered, tightening his grip on her arm. "You think you can walk in here like you own the place, like you're somebody. But let me make something very clear. You're nothing. Just another loudmouth who doesn't know when to keep her head down." His eyes scanned her, filled with the kind of arrogance that comes from knowing the system would always be on his side. He knew the power he had, and he was using every ounce of it to remind her exactly where he thought she belonged. Her pulse pounded in her ears, but her face remained unreadable. The humiliation burned, but she swallowed it down. Not here. Not now. Behind them, a low murmur rippled through the crowd gathering at the entrance of the courtroom. Lawyers, clerks, and bystanders exchanged nervous glances. They had seen Officer Derek Lawson before. His reputation wasn't a secret. His temper, his prejudice, his unchecked power. It was all known, whispered about, tolerated. But no one had ever dared to stand in his way. And right now, he looked completely untouchable. "You think you could just waltz in here, making a scene, wasting my time?" Derek's voice grew louder, bolder, feeding off the silence around them. "I should drag your ass out of here myself. Hell, maybe I should throw you in a cell for the night. Teach you a little respect." A hush fell over the hallway. His words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. She remained still. She didn't fight back. She didn't push him away. She didn't need to. Not yet. His grip on her tightened once more before he finally released her with a sharp shove, sending her stumbling a step back. He chuckled, shaking his head as if the very sight of her disgusted him. Then, turning to the small crowd that had gathered, he smirked. "What are you all waiting for? A damn invitation? Show's over." One by one, people turn away, some out of fear, some out of habit, others simply unwilling to get involved. He exhaled sharply, as if the entire encounter had been nothing more than an inconvenience to his day, and adjusted his badge. "That's what I thought." She straightened her shoulders slowly, brushing off the sleeves of her blazer, as if wiping away his touch. Then, for the first time since the assault, she spoke. "You done?" Her voice was calm, steady, a stark contrast to the boiling rage that burned beneath it. Derek scoffed, amused by her composure. "Yeah, I'm done. You're lucky I don't haul your ass out of here right now." A pause, a single bead of silence. Then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a defeated one, a knowing smile, one that sent an unshakable chill up his spine. "Good," she said smoothly, "because in about 5 minutes, you're going to wish you never put your hands on me." His smirk faltered just slightly, but he recovered quickly, rolling his eyes. "Yeah? And why is that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned her gaze toward the courtroom doors as they finally swung open. Inside, the judge was already seated. Prosecutors, attorneys, and law enforcement officers lined the room. The air crackled with anticipation. Derek let out a short laugh, shaking his head as he crossed his arms over his chest. "Whatever, lady. You really think anyone in there gives a damn about you?" She didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge the words. Instead, she stepped forward, confident, unshaken, every step fueled by something far more powerful than anger, justice. And then, just before stepping inside, she turned back to face him one last time. "Watch closely, officer," she murmured, "because I promise you, this is a day you'll never forget." As she disappeared into the courtroom, the weight of her words settled deep in his chest. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty flashed in his eyes. Because what he didn't know, what no one in that room had any way of knowing, was that in just a few minutes his entire world was about to come crashing down. And when the truth was finally revealed, When the gavel struck and the weight of his actions came full circle, what happened next would leave everyone in that courtroom speechless. Before we dive deeper into today's story, we want to make something clear. Tales of Resolve stands firmly against racism in all its forms. No one should ever have to face discrimination, injustice, or hate because of the color of their skin. To our Black viewers, we see you, we support you, and we stand with you. This channel is a place for powerful stories, and today's tale is one of justice, karma, and standing tall in the face of prejudice. Now, sit back and listen closely, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. The Courthouse of Contrasts. The courthouse in Charleston was a place of contrasts. Inside its heavy oak doors, justice was supposed to be blind. But everyone knew that was a lie. The marble floors gleamed under the bright overhead lights, polished daily as if the cleanliness of the building could wash away the corruption that seeped through its walls. Lawyers in expensive suits strode confidently through the halls, their shoes clicking against the floor, their voices filled with the kind of arrogance that came from knowing the system worked for them. Defendants sat hunched on benches, some whispering to their public defenders, others staring blankly ahead, already knowing the outcome of their trials before they even began. And the police? They walked these halls like they owned them. Officer Derek Lawson was one of them, a veteran of the force. He had spent over 15 years patrolling the streets, climbing the ranks just enough to wield power, but never enough to be watched too closely. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his uniform pressed and spotless, his badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. To the outside world, he was a decorated officer, respected by his peers. To those who knew better, he was a different kind of authority, a man who wore his power like armor, using it not to protect, but to control. He had grown up in a world where men like him didn't have to answer to anyone. His father had been a cop before him, his grandfather before that. They had built their lives on the belief that authority was meant to be unquestioned, that respect was demanded, not earned. Derek carried those lessons with him into every interaction, every arrest, every moment he spent in uniform. And in a place like this courthouse, where people like him were the rule and not the exception, he had no reason to believe that would ever change. On the other side of the courtroom, across the very hall where he had just shoved a woman against the wall and humiliated her in front of dozens of witnesses, sat a group of police officers waiting for the next case to be called. They laughed, checked their phones, exchanged casual banter. To them, this was just another day. If they had seen what happened, they didn't care. And if they had heard what Derek had said, none of them would ever question it. That was how things worked. But Derek wasn't just any cop. He was the kind that men like him protected. Not because they admired him, but because they knew he could just as easily be them. He had complaints on his record: excessive force, racial profiling, misconduct reports that never seemed to go anywhere. Each time, he had walked away without so much as a slap on the wrist. He knew how to play the game. He knew how to say just enough, but never too much. How to twist the narrative until the story was always in his favor. And he knew, without a doubt, that no one would ever question him over something as small as roughing up a black woman in a courthouse. Her name was Elise Carter, and she wasn't just another face in the crowd. To be continued.